Welcome, JA educators and students. My name is Kathy Blanchett, VP of Education for Junior Achievement of Northern California. And our mission is to empower our youth to own our economic future. And with the addition of distance learning into our school year, we've added a new interactive experience called the JA Virtual Career Speaker Series. This program is open to JA students and educators across our area and highlights our business professionals, entrepreneurs, and innovative thinkers from a variety of industries. Each featured speaker will share details about their education, job, and career journey. And today, we welcome Jobina Fortson, ABC 7 news anchor and reporter, and a JA volunteer from the Bay Area. During today's call, all lines will be muted. And after the presentation, we will have the opportunity for Q&A. So at this time, I'd like to pass it to Jobina.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're having a great Thursday. Thank you all for joining and for the opportunity. So I'm going to present my path, what I do, and keep it pretty short and simple, and then I will open it up for questions and discussion or whatever it is anyone wants to discuss. Maybe you just want to discuss where you can find toilet paper right now. But we are just going to keep it open, keep it fun, and I am going to share my screen with you and we'll get started. Okay. All right, so here we go. Okay, everyone. So as I mentioned, my name is Jobina Fortson. I am the morning traffic and breaking news anchor at ABC 7. So these photos are just some highlights. I do a lot of live interviews. So this is myself and 50 Cent a couple months ago from him promoting his new show on ABC. My station is the ABC station, so we have a lot of connections to anything that happens on ABC, whether it be the Oscars or the NFL draft. I don't know if anyone watched that. All of those kinds of programming are on our network. The bottom left here, building a better Bay Area. So here in the Bay Area, we have an initiative to help build better communities and do everything we can on our part as journalists and as a station that's a part of the community, all ideas and stories and things to make where we live better. And then this picture on the right, last year I won 3 Emmys actually, which was very exciting. And one of them was from my time here in the Bay Area and the coverage of a large fire we had, unfortunately, but I was proud of the work that we did and glad that the Emmy committee recognized it. So we're gonna rewind a little bit. So just some background for me. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, grew up there, and I went to Howard University for undergrad in Washington, DC. My major in college was broadcast journalism. I knew pretty early on that I wanted to be a journalist. I just wasn't sure what kind. In high school, I wrote for my high school newspaper, and when I got to Washington, DC, I was my first internship was actually in radio, which was a really great time because for some reason, I mean, there are lots of really incredible things about radio, but I just love that no one could see what you were wearing. Like kind of how we do now, since I'm working from home, you can have on pajama pants and a nice top and no one has to know. But my minor in college was political science, which I find helpful still to this day because I do a lot of coverage that involve politics, not all the time, but just that prior knowledge is always helpful. And then once I finished my first internship in radio, that's when I started to delve into TV. So I interned at the ABC station in our nation's capital. I also interned for CBS News, the network, and Fox News, and went on from there. And I also did pretty well in school, which I'm proud about. I was on the Dean's List every year and had a number of awards, but one of the most exciting things I got while I was in school was the White House Correspondence Scholarship. So that is an award that is presented by the President and First Lady. And you can see from the bottom left photo that the President and First Lady at the time in 2013 was Barack and Michelle Obama. So that was pretty exciting for me as a student. And then you can see on the right-hand side, that is at the bottom, that's me as an intern in New York. And then when I graduated in the top right. So I graduated in 2014. So it's been a while. It feels like school was just yesterday, but it definitely was not. Okay, so a lot of people have questions that are interested in journalism about how you end up where you work. And it's an interesting path and it's different for everyone. I say the most common route is once you graduate school, you put together something called a reel. And that is basically a short video of different clips of you reporting, and we report at school. So we had a television station at my school and also through my internship. So you see me standing up and doing different shots and stories and that kind of thing. And it's a montage and it's all put together and you send it out everywhere. So I sent it out all over the country and I landed where you see on the bottom right, that picture. I was working at a station near the beach in a place called Salisbury, Maryland, which is in the middle of nowhere, Maryland. Because when I tell people that I started out in Maryland, they think, oh, cool, Baltimore. No, it wasn't over there. And, you know, you think, oh, the beach, that's exciting. It was for 3 months out of the year when the beach is open and running and then the weather is nice. But when it wasn't, to be quite honest, there were chicken farms. I never smelled that kind of country chicken smell before and all the other things that are out there in that little town. It was definitely a culture shock being from Atlanta and going to school also in a big city. But it was great because it was a small station. Made mistakes there, and it's okay because there probably weren't that many people watching because the viewing area was so small. You practice, you get better, you do all of those things, and then I moved on from there. Still friends with loads of people from that station too because we were all young and all early career, just starting out. So I did just under 2 years in Maryland, and then from there, I went to Louisville, Kentucky. I was really nervous about that one too. I went to the NBC station there and I thought, oh my goodness, I don't know anything about Kentucky. And I thought I was not too excited about it, to be honest. I was excited to be going to a bigger city, but I just didn't think, oh, this is gonna be for me. But it was a good career opportunity, so I took it. And I ended up loving it, which is, you know, totally the opposite of what I thought. And so this bottom left picture, that's me covering the Kentucky Derby, which is Louisville's biggest event of the year. It was such a great time and so many fun memories and great career experiences and things I got to do while there. So I was there for 2 years and my contract was coming up, but I knew that I wanted to move to the Bay Area. So I hustled as hard as I could to make contacts here. I didn't really know anyone that was working in the Bay Area. I have friends here, but not in journalism in the Bay Area. So I got some help, and I'll talk about that a little later once we get into questions, that it's always great to maintain relationships, not because you need anything from someone, but just because it's always good to stay in touch with people that you've worked with, be kind to others, no matter what, right? And then if it so happens to help you, then that's just even better. So when I was in Louisville and I was expressing my want and need to move to the Bay Area, a colleague of mine said, oh my goodness, why didn't you say anything earlier? She used to work in Miami. My current boss now worked with her in Miami, sent her an email when I was out here visiting on a weekend, a long weekend. I came in for a meeting at ABC 7 and things went pretty well. And they told me that they did not have an opening, but they were interested. So if I wanted to come and be a freelance reporter, I could do that. So this is me at the Warriors game on the floor. I covered the Warriors a lot, so that's been pretty fun. Fortunately, not the best season, and then of course the season has stopped now, but this year, but it's been a really fun ride covering the Warriors. So anyways, I came as a freelancer, and very quickly they seemed to like my work, so I kept working every day, and then I got offered a full-time role to be the morning, Monday through Friday, anchor for the breaking news and traffic. So this is a photo of myself and the morning anchor team. I'm not sure if I'm blocking Mike, but I can do that. Okay. So what I do every day. So I work on the morning show, and that typically seems to be the show that people think is the most fun, and we do all these crazy things, and it's long, and we have a great time interacting with our viewers. but we are on when people wake up in the morning from 4:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. So that means work begins for me at 3 a.m. So I'm up at 2 something, at work at 3. The morning show starts at 4:30. Then I work from 4:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. on the air. And then at 9 a.m., I have like a little break. This is just kind of a rundown of what I do every day. From 9:50 onward, I prepare for the midday show. And then at 11 a.m., we have our midday show. And I do a segment there called Hot Topics, where we talk about big things that are going on in the Bay Area, in addition to any other news. And then 12 p.m., I'm done for the day. And I say hopefully, because with news, you never know what's going to happen. And then right now, this is interesting because we are working from home or working remotely. So I have with me this, I use this monitor in the background as my background. I have 2 laptops that sit up here, a TV that sits here. I use this iPad so that I have my scripts every day in the morning so I can read our stories on the air. I use an AirPod so that I can hear what's happening back in the control room. It is very homemade in here, but we're making it work. So that's what I do now. So I do get to sleep in a little later, to be honest, like 2:50, and then it's changed really quickly, and then I'm ready to go at 3 a.m. And that is me. Obviously, there's a little bit more, but I don't want to talk for too long. I want to open it up for questions and comments and talk about career paths. If anyone is interested in journalism, or even if not, if you're just curious or want to discuss what life is like or covering the pandemic, we can chat about it. So I am going to stop my share and open it up.
Excellent. Thank you, Jobina.
Yeah.
So at this time, we'll open it up for Q&A. If within each of your screens, you have the option of raising your hand through the 3 little buttons in the top right-hand corner, or if you want to, you may take your video off mute and you can raise your hand if you can't quite figure out that technical piece. Okay, it looks like we have our first couple questions coming in. So we're going to take our first one from Deshaun. Deshaun, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line. Okay, you should be unmuted.
What made you want to work for the news?
Thanks, Deshaun. Well, for me, it wasn't necessarily wanting to work for the news. That's actually something I often think about, is going forward throughout my career, how will I be able to consistently tell stories that I want to tell? Because when you do work for a station, you pitch stories, and those stories have to be approved and everything like that. And it's quite a process. You don't always get to tell the stories that you want to tell. I knew that I enjoyed storytelling, though. I also really did well with reading and writing in school, and my job falls a lot on writing. Writing is a big part of journalism that people don't always realize, that we or someone else is writing everything that we are putting on the air. So I think I just loved the idea of video, because I still film stuff. I kind of skipped over this part, that when I worked in Louisville, I was something called an MMJ, which is short for multimedia journalist. And that's when you take the camera out yourself, tripod, microphones, whole bit, by yourself, and you're filming the stories, doing it start to finish. There were things that I liked about that and things that I didn't enjoy as much. I did get to work with photographers there. Here, when I do go out in the field, I work with photographers. But it was cool to be a part of the creative process, if you will, from start to finish, and be able to share things, because I think it's really important, if you have a platform, to give people a voice, which I am pretty passionate about. Last week, we did something, it was a virtual town hall, actually like this on Zoom, but we broadcasted it on television for an hour at 4 p.m. on Thursday last week. It was called Race and Coronavirus, a Bay Area conversation. And it was about how the coronavirus is disproportionately impacting Black Americans across the country. And I anchored and hosted that town hall. That was something that was pretty important to me, and I was really glad that we were able to give voices to people and all different facets, whether it be healthcare, community, YMCA. We had elected officials to be able to speak about this issue and what's being done. Today we're doing one that's about the impact on the Latino community, and before that we did one about the Asian American community. So being able to shed light on problems or good things that are happening is what I like to do. So that's kind of where this came from. Thank you for the question, Deshawn.
Excellent. Thank you, Deshawn. Our next question is going to come from from Gloria. Gloria, I'm going to unmute your line. Okay, Gloria?
Hi. So my question is, what is your favorite story that you reported on?
Oh, wow. That is a good question. I don't know. There was one that came instantly to mind, so I guess I'll mention that first, but then there are a couple others. I'll keep this short. So there was this story of mine that I did in Louisville that ended up going viral, but that was not why I liked it so much. But I think the reason it went viral was because of why I liked it. There was this story. It was actually a colleague of mine, his friend's son was going to go get a haircut, and he was 5, and he asked for the haircut from his mom because he wanted to look just like his best friend. So this boy that wanted to get the haircut is white. His best friend is black. And just unbeknownst to both of them, they just thought that if he got his haircut, they would look like twins. And they genuinely thought that. And the mom thought it was so funny. And she told my colleague, and she just thought it was a funny story. And he was like, what? I think that would be a really good uplifting news story. Let's send Jobina, because she loves that kind of stuff, which I do. I love anything that's going to be good, make you feel good. So we went with them to go get the haircut, and these 5-year-olds had the best time in the world. It was so funny, like watching him get his haircut, and he was like, oh my gosh, we're going to trick our teacher, because that's why they wanted to do it, is they wanted to trick their teacher the next day. And then the story ended up exploding. It just went everywhere, and I thought was really inspiring to a lot of people, because it was during a pretty divisive time in our country, and to just see that young children have this ability to look past surfaces was really nice. So I really liked doing that story. And then also, I mean, I love doing the fun stuff, covering the Warriors or the Kentucky Derby, big events, things like that. Those have all been really fun. So I'd say maybe those, yeah. Thanks, Gloria.
Excellent. Thank you, Jobina. Thank you, Gloria. I did see a hand raise with Will. Will, do you have a question that you'd like to ask? Because I can, oh, perfect. I'm going to unmute your line, Will. Okay. There you go, Will. Your line is unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Will
yeah.
Wish.
I
I like your last name.
Thank you.
That's cool.
I wanted to ask, when was, like, do you remember the first time you anchored and it aired on TV?
Oh, yes. Now that is a good question. I anchored for the first time. It was like Thanksgiving week. Okay, so I will be 100% honest. This is something that I did not know going into news, and I wish someone had kind of told me, but obviously I think now it's assumed that you should know, but I didn't. When you start out in news, when you start out at any job, and I was 21, right out of college, still in my 20s, so I'm still at the bottom of the totem pole at my station here. You are like last for vacation and all that kind of thing, and definitely during the holidays, because you notice the news never stops. We're always on, even on the weekend, nights, holidays. So the first time I anchored was, I think, the day before Thanksgiving at my first job in that middle of nowhere station in Salisbury, Maryland. So I was upset because I didn't get to be home with my family for the holidays, but I was happy because I got to anchor for the first time. I put on way too much blush. I was trying to like look like an anchor lady. I had this blazer that was too big. I was definitely having maybe a little imposter syndrome there, trying to fit the role. And that would be my advice moving forward with anything, is don't try to fit the mold, just be yourself. I think people know when you're trying to be something else. There's nothing wrong with, I think, finding people that you like and trying to model off of them a little bit, or you see things that, okay, they do that really well, and study that craft. That's great. But just being you. So I did it. It went fine. I think I was really stiff when I look back on it now. I cringe, but I guess they didn't dislike it that much because following that, I anchored a lot from there, and now I do here. But every time I don't really get nervous anymore or anything like that going on the air, because you do it every day as though, you know, any other job, whatever your role is every day, whether you're a student or anything, you get into the routine. But whenever it's something big or new, you kind of get the little, oh, I hope I don't mess it up. So I was nervous, and then I did the 6 p.m. show that day, and then by the time 11 p.m. rolled around, I was getting the ball rolling. So thank you, Will Swish. Yes.
Thank you,
May I ask a
Jobina.
question?
Yes, please. I'm not sure who that is, but
That's
please do.
Cynthia, I think.
Yes.
Cynthia.
Were you nervous the first time you went on TV?
Definitely. It was like, if I were to take this, I was holding the microphone like this. And I memorized my script so fast, and I spread it out my mouth like this, and then I was done. Like, that's how I sounded. That's how I sounded. It was so, it was, my boss emailed me afterwards and was like, good job, but you could be a little more relaxed. So I just needed to calm down. I mean, it's really like, if any of you, and maybe you all, some of you all might be much more natural than I was the first time I did it. But I was just so focused on not messing up. And I think that people are much more forgiving in any space, even right now, because I'm anchoring from home. I'm not an engineer, and there are so many, if you saw my room right now, there are so many machines in here and all these things, and things do not go right consistently. I'd say every day. And I was so stressed about it, and it was starting to affect how my on-air performance, because I'm just looking at all these, oh, is this thing on? Is this light right? All of this. And then I got an email in the middle of the show from a viewer, and I was thinking like, oh, great. Like they have a complaint. And then, you know what it was about my plant that I use in the background. They were like, hey, Jobina, we noticed there's some brown tips on your plant. You should clip that. I was like, oh, okay. So nobody really cares about the other stuff. So that's, so to answer your question, Cynthia, very nervous the first time I was on the air there, nervous the first time I started in Louisville, and nervous the first time I went on the air here in San Francisco, because it's new.
How long did it take for you to get used to it?
To get used to it? I say here quickly, because I have now been doing this. I graduated 5 years ago-ish, or I guess almost 6. So I've been doing this for 6 years, basically since I graduated college. So I am used to it. So I am not really bothered by it. I'd say it took maybe like a few weeks in Maryland, you know, getting in the groove, knowing everybody, understanding everything, kind of almost like anything else that you're new at. It takes a couple weeks, and then you start feeling it. But then when you go somewhere else, like say you transfer schools, right? You're used to your school, you know your friends, your teachers, everything. You go to a new school, you might be like, you know, I got this. But most people are a little nervous. So every time I started something new again, got a little nervous, but then here by day 2, you know, you get the first day out the way, and then you just keep moving.
Excellent. Thanks, Jobina. It looks like we have a new hand from Gloria. Gloria, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your line.
So how did I say this? Did you think that this would forever be your job, or would you like another job in the future?
Very good question. I did not know, and I don't think I still know. I think in 2020, I mean, look, did anyone think we would be in the middle of a pandemic? I never thought that I would be anchoring the news from my house. I never thought that I was telling Kathy before we got on the line, I'll share with you all, my station is owned by Disney. We're ABC. And we just had a big company, or station-wide, I should say, meeting with our general manager, talking about how things move from here. We're going to be covering the pandemic for a really long time. So I never thought that. I never thought I'd be covering one thing for several months, unless it was an election. And who's talking about that right now? That's what I thought we'd be talking about at this stage in the news business. So as far as if I think this will be my forever job, I don't know. people don't have cable anymore, but now we are streamed, so that's different. You know, people aren't watching me the same way. They watch on their phone or online or wherever, and I also do the news differently. So it's just seeing how it all progresses. If the question is if I enjoy my job, yes, but do I see it forever? I don't know. Maybe that'd be cool. Maybe not. I think that'd be cool too. I'm just kind of feeling it out. I think kind of how everybody else is, and maybe it's just a new age kind of thing that we don't stay in the same jobs all the time how we used to, like our parents and things like that have stayed with the same companies for forever. And that is no knock to that, but I just think that, you know, we're in a different time, and I think it's totally okay to pivot and do something if you feel that your passions or interests have changed.
Excellent. Thank you, Jobina. Okay, and our next question is going to come from Robert. Robert, I'm going to unmute your line. Let's see. Okay, Robert?
What age did you realize you wanted to do journalism or news anchoring?
Oh, thanks, Robert. So I was pretty young. I was one of those kids that just, I knew, okay? I was like going around the house saying, oh, can I get a video camera? So my parents actually got me a little kid's video camera, and I started making music videos. So I would invite people, as in my parents and sister, to premiere my music videos in the kitchen. And then that progressed to me doing like, I would pretend to be like an MTV VJ, because they used to have this show on MTV called TRL, and they would intro music videos. So I thought that was my career path. I mean, until like junior year of college. So I thought that's probably what I was going to be doing. But it all focused around the same themes. Video editing. I edit. I know how to edit. I shoot video. I know how to do sound, all those kinds of things, which are used, I guess, in music and things like that too. And then when I got to high school and started writing for my newspaper, my school newspaper, I started realizing that, oh, this has a different feel to it. And I think what I enjoyed, and not to say that I don't like entertainment news or anything like that, or feature stories, because I do, but I did like that if there was something serious or something important that I thought needed to be shared, and if I was able to make a case for it, because that's essentially what we do a lot of the times when we want to pitch stories, that I could possibly make that happen. Or get that story to someone else to make it happen, because I'm not always available to tell the story, but I do know other people that can with our assignment desk. So do it that way. And once I discovered that, it kind of got the ball rolling a little bit more towards news. So I've always had an interest, and it's completely fine if you don't. I tell my sister that. She's in school, and she just now figured out what she wants to do, and she's in grad school, and that's fine. And you can also, you know, change it at any time.
Excellent. Thanks, Jobina. Since you've moved into the digital environment now in your home, could you show our students and our teachers what your setup looks like a little bit?
Yeah, so I was trying to figure out the best way to do that, because this is, all right, so we are going to do something, it's gonna be like show and tell, because I can't quite move my laptop, but I'm gonna show you. So we will start with, I have 3 phones. So the first phone, we use an app called Digero. So can everyone see this? And you're seeing yourselves probably. When I click, oh, I mean, who cares? It's fine. If I click start and live, we'll start going live in the control room at ABC7 right now. So do you see all these little waves that are coming up? These are the sound waves and the transmission that's going into the newsroom. So if we stayed up, oh, and now we're on air. You see that? We're on air. They can see us, and I'm gonna get off of that because they're probably thinking, what is she doing? But I have this here, and I have this ring light, and I have another clip here, and that holds this phone up next to my main laptop, which you all are on. This main laptop holds a system called ENPS, and that system has all the scripts. Everything that we read on the air is on this laptop, and it is protected with multiple layers of firewalls, I guess. So Disney doesn't want anyone to hack our system, obviously, edit scripts or change anything that's going to be on our air. So it takes a really long time at 3 a.m. for me to log in. I have to put in multiple passwords until I can get to it and start editing for myself. What's living in ENPS also lives in what I was showing you this morning. So let's see if I'm going to take you to, here we go. You can see this is the prompter, and you see my name at the top, Jobina. So this is what I read this morning. This was, unfortunately, looking at the unemployment numbers right now, 3.1 million people filed for unemployment benefits last week. So that's what we have here. We had some funny stories. I ran into a wild turkey in the middle of the street in Oakland yesterday. The animals are really taking over right now. So we talk about all sorts of things. We were talking about, I had this other story this morning about McDonald's. So a little inside on TV, when you see something that says VO, so right there, that stands for video over tape. So it takes the video. So you know how sometimes when you're watching TV and you see an anchor talking blah, 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 and then all of a sudden the video comes up, that's the cue for the video. So that's how I know that I no longer need to look at the camera and I can start looking down and reading what's coming up. And then another cue, so if you're interested in audio at all, this SOT full, SOT stands for SOT over tape, and then that's when they run the sound. So whatever interview or anything else we have is there. So have that. This is my other laptop for the Chromecast that puts up the ABC7 logo because we're all about some branding. We also all wear these 7s. I mean, they just really want you to know that where we work, clearly. So there's that. Then I have this phone, and I'll show you a little bit of what's happening in here because everything has something different. We use a system called Slack, and in here you can see all these different channels, and this is how I communicate with all of the producers. So you can see everyone's names and what they're talking about so they can reach me right away because we're not in the same building anymore. So it's almost just like instant messaging. And then this phone is just simply used for calling. But I leave it on and put in my AirPod, and that's where I dial into the control room and hear everything else. Not done yet. This is also here. It's a little monitor so I can see what's on TV because everything you watch at home is on a 25-second delay. So by the time I see it, if I were watching on a normal TV, it's over and done. And we need to be able to see what's on the air, especially since I'm a breaking news anchor. I usually talk about what we're actively seeing. I can't be 25 seconds behind, otherwise they're gonna think, what in the world is she saying? So then, almost done. The TV is connected to this iPod, and when you pull up here and you click in here, it will actually pull up what's in the control room so that nothing is on a delay. And this is the last piece, I promise. This in here, you have a million cords. I plug this receiver into the iPhone so that my microphone can work. I can use this big microphone, or I can use a little microphone that clips right here. We also have something, I don't know if any of you all have used a gimbal, but the microphone or the phone could be propped up with this little contraction. And then I set that up every day, and then I'm done. And that's it.
That's amazing. I think our teachers took some good notes. They might need to get another couple iPhones for their virtual classes.
The more iPhones, the better. You can just have one for each thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Jobina. Okay, let's open it back up to questions from our guests. Just going to search the participants and look for any hands raised. Aha, we've got a hand from J.A. NorCal. J.A. NorCal, your phone is on, your line is unmuted.
Hey, Jobina, it's Heather Small. I just want to say thank you for this amazing presentation. And my question, if what I'm thinking about is when you came out to volunteer at our JA She Leads STEM Summit, you were so engaged with young ladies and offering them advice. And I wonder if there was any piece of advice you'd want to share with our students about, if you were to go back and think about your younger self, like what advice would you share with them as they're sitting there in high school, things that they could do to prepare themselves for the future?
Oh, definitely. Thanks, Heather. Great to hear you. I'm glad you're doing well.
Yeah.
I think that I was very lucky to have a lot of great role models growing up, especially with my mom and just other women in my life that I saw doing really cool things. That I had a nice leg up, I think, than maybe some other young ladies. And what I would say is that if you see anyone that is doing something that remotely interests you, reach out to them. I think that people, especially women that are doing well or in places where they can help others, will help you. I do. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but I think that largely, or you can express it to a teacher and say, hey, I really liked what I saw on X, Y, and Z right here, or I'm interested in working in sports, but I didn't see a lot of women in sports at this facility, but I saw this woman over here. How can I reach her? How can I talk to her? How can I speak to someone that knows about that? People are really, I think overwhelmingly, people are willing to help you. And I am not someone that likes to ask for help. I really don't. And there is nothing wrong with doing that, because when you allow others to help you, sometimes you're not overwhelmed. You can learn things, you can get advice instead of trying to do it solely on your own. So that's one thing. And a story, actually. There was this news anchor, I was interning in DC. Her name's Sanae Simpson, and she was in the morning. She worked the hours that I work now, which are early. So as an intern, I came in at 9:30 every day, but I really wanted to talk to Sanae Simpson. And I told my professor that. She was like, well, why don't you just get up and be at the station when she's at the station? And I was like, oh, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. So I got up really early, and I was nervous, of course. So I brought a friend because I didn't want to go by myself. And we waited and waited and waited and waited until the show was over. And she came out, and she was so nice and made so much time for us. I'm not saying that everyone will do that for you, but it was really nice. She made time for us. She talked to us. She explained her path and everything. And I still, as an adult, obviously remember that to this day. So it was an impactful experience. And I would say, don't be afraid to try something new or different. And just because your friends are not doing it does not mean that you shouldn't try it, because we're all different.
Excellent. Thank you, Jobina. Our next question will come from Miss Hannah. Mrs. Hannah out in Stockton, I'm going to unmute your mic.
Okay.
Hey, good morning. And again, thank you, Jobina, for giving us such a delightful presentation.
Oh, great. Thank you.
As a teacher, I'm always interested in finding ways that I can best prepare my students for internships. And the first part of the question is, at what age would it be viable for a student to apply for an internship at a company such as ABC in San Francisco or any of the other affiliate stations? And secondly, what suggestion would you give to students that is a must-have on their resume to make their resume stand out?
That's a good one. Well, for the first question, it does vary. I know that, for example, my station, you have to be able to get college credit. So then that automatically means you have to be a college student to be able to do the internship. However, I met someone totally out of the realm of my job that told me that they interned there, but it was kind of like a makeshift internship, if you will. And then I realized I did the same thing. If you can, say you're in high school and you just really want to see something, I would just reach out directly to like a reporter that you might know or that someone has a connection to. That's what this person did, and that's what I did too. My internship at ABC in Washington was over. but I wasn't done. So I wanted to keep going. And I had developed a really good relationship with one of the reporters and photographers that I worked with. And they told me, hey, any Friday that you want to come down, that's fine. But I think coupled with that was that I was a good intern for them. I will say that. And I think that's some advice that maybe students could take, is to be willing to do whatever they ask. If they need you to go pick something up, pick something up. If you need to, you know, whatever it is, handle it, get the main job done first. And then they were able to help me. So I got to come in on Fridays. They would help me shoot my reel, which I mentioned was so critical for me to get my job. So they really had a hand in helping me. And I think people like that. People like helping others and knowing, because I see them at conferences now, and they know that they had a hand in my success. And that always, I think, makes anyone feel good. So the age, I would say definitely college, but in high school, there are ways around it. So if you reach out, or maybe to someone directly, not necessarily the internship coordinator may tell you, oh, you need the credit, but you know, but I think sometimes there's always a way. I've seen it happen, and that would be my advice. And then at the very least, you could ask for a tour and a shadow. And then if you tour, get someone's business card and follow up. Always follow up. And then the second question there about the resumes. For journalism, the answer is internships, hands down. You have to, because they need to see what you can do. My industry is definitely one that relies a lot on experience versus, say, I have a best friend that just graduated with her MBA last weekend, virtually on Zoom, because that's how we are right now. And for her, they wanted to see work experience to be able to go to Michigan. They wanted to know, have you had a job yet? Have you done this? They don't really encourage you to go straight from undergrad and do that kind of program. So I would say for anyone that is interested in journalism, internship, if you're interested in something else, I think it goes back to finding or doing a little research and seeing if there's someone out there that is doing something kind of close to what you want to do, and stalk their LinkedIn page or see their Twitter or their Instagram, what they've been up to, what they do. And then it never hurts to reach out and just try. I've sent so many emails that don't get a response in my time coming up, but then also have surprised myself in that who I've heard back from. You just never know.
Excellent. Thank you, Ms. Hannah. Thank you, Jobina. And our last question for the day, it comes from Heather Marcus. She sent it to me through the text, and she asked, Jobina, when you have to report on a story that maybe you have strong feelings one way or the other, how do you maintain your professionalism?
Oh, yes. That is a great question. And I think that it is like any other job in that you have to maintain your professionalism if you want to keep doing that job. My role as a journalist is very important to me in being impartial, not inserting my opinions, because that means that I would lose my credibility, and credibility is what my job stands on. So if you lose that, then you have nothing else. So for me, I've been on a number of stories that I didn't agree with, or disagreed with my interview, or felt that someone was rude and I should have said something back. But that's just not how that goes. And I think that's true for any profession. If you're in a conference room and having a meeting and someone says something off the wall, you cannot be off the wall right back. It's just not how that works. And I think that, my parents raised me a certain way too, just at home. You just need to be respectful, do what it is you're going to do, and make sure the story is balanced. And if I achieve those two things, then I think the job has been done.
Excellent. Thank you, Jobina.
Thank you.
And with that, we will end our JA Virtual Career Speaker Series. We have recorded the video, so we will share it with our teachers. You may put this in your Google Classroom or share it with your students who might have missed it today. And thank you all for attending. We will be sending an email with a survey, as well as each of you have earned a student certificate for participating in this program. We appreciate everything that you do. And we want to thank you all for your time today. Thank you, Jobina, as well. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jobina.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Great job.
Jobina.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank
Good
you.
job.